I almost didn't do this series. I wrapped up Star Wars month. The Pixar review series is wrapping up. And I said, you know what? Maybe now is a good time to come back to wrestling. It looks like SummerSlam's around the corner. So I said, you know what? Screw it. Let's review all the SummerSlams. Wish me luck. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the SummerSlam review series. And we are going to kick it off with 1988, where the first SummerSlam came out in Madison Square Garden, of all places, because, of course, they were going to make SummerSlam the second biggest show behind WrestleMania. And what better way than to kick off a big show like this than at MSG? And for the first SummerSlam, it was weak. I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't terrible. There was a lot of decent stuff, but for the most part, its only importance was the main event, and if that delivered. And it seems like that's the trend with 80s and 90s, early 90s, WWF. It's whether or not the main event sells you on the show, and I think they did a good job there because the rest of this show was mid. I'm being real. Um, there was a couple of decent matches, one cool moment, and then the main event was pretty good. So let's just talk about it. And then the first match was hands down like the best match of the night. Easily the British Bulldogs versus the Fabulous Rojus. I think that's how you pronounce it, but it was a really good back and forth tag team. This was a great tag team match. I couldn't really get mad at it. And I do like the finale where like it looks like the British Bulldogs are gonna win, and there was no chance that the Fabulous Rogues, whatever the hell they're called, are gonna pass. So then they just try to like, I said, screw it, let's just end in a time limit draw, and then that's exactly how the match ended. So it kind of kept both teams looking strong, but at the end of the day, no real winner. But it was a fun little match, and I was really entertained by it, and like I said, this was the match of the night. I can't really say the same about the next match. Bad News Brown versus Ken Patera. This was whatever. I like Bad News Brown. I'm glad that he won, and uh, yeah, there's that. Rick Rude versus Junkyard Dog. I'm tired of Junkyard Dog always ending his matches at Big Fours in DQ. This was no reason for that. I guess they wanted to make Junkyard Dog look strong, but then at the same time they didn't want Rick Rude to lose since he is part of the Heenan family. I would have just had Rick Rude beat him clean. At this point, Junkyard Dog was like on the way out. They were really slowly pushing him out of WWF, if I'm being honest, but I get it. Junkyard Dog is a popular character, so I guess they didn't want to do that, so DQ finish it is, I guess. The Bolsheviks lost to the Legion of Doom. Oh wait, I'm sorry, that's not them. That's the Powers of Pain, the real ripoff of the LOD. The Powers of Pain, who are characters that I like. I thought they were a decent team, but they just were no match for um, LOD and even Demolition, who are also in this show. But it did do its job of just showcasing who these guys are. What was supposed to be Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus the Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental Championship changed at the last minute. I guess Beefcake had an injury, but man, did this lead to one of the best moments in SummerSlam history, and that is the Ultimate Warrior coming out, getting a huge standing ovation, knocking out Honky Tonk Man, and taking the Intercontinental Championship from him in 30 seconds. This was a great way to showcase the Ultimate Warrior, and also a great way to end the Honky Tonk Man's legendary title reign that ended just a couple years ago by Gunther. But at the time, the Honky Tonk Man was a creative heel. He wasn't about the wrestling. It was about making you hate him and hoping that he lost. And eventually he did lose, and they did a great job with this. I love this moment. This is definitely one of the biggest highlights and pops for at least this SummerSlam. It's just too bad that the rest of the show doesn't live up to the hype until the very end. Dino Bravo versus Don Morocco was a match that happened. I really wasn't paying attention at this point. I was just fading out of the show. Even though it was 5 minutes, it felt longer. And it's unfortunate because, I do like these guys as, wrestlers, but They weren't like all that great, and I think by this time I was just over it. But still an okay uh, match, and of course Dino Bravo had to win since he was practically like the one that they were pushing over, and it was a great way to have Don Morocco put over Dino Bravo, even though he kind of went nowhere, if I'm being honest. Next, we had Demolition versus Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart of the Hart Foundation, and this was a good tag team match, probably the second or third best match of the night. But later on, like 2 years later, Demolition and the Hart Foundation end up having a 5-star classic that people still talk about to this day. This one was still good, but it wasn't as great as that eventual one that we're gonna get. And it was still a solid entry, and yeah, I was fine with this, and I'm glad that the Demolition continued on with their legendary tag team run that eventually ends by the Hart Foundation later down the road. Big Boss Man defeated Coco Beware. Um, this was fine. I wasn't really high on this, but I do like the two characters. But there was that. Jake Roberts beats Hercules. Another match. I'm just like, please just put me out of my misery. These matches were solid. It was fun to see all these characters because at the time it was all about how entertaining can you be for a limited amount of time, and that's essentially what this was and what most of this show was. But really, none of that mattered. Jake Roberts win. Let's move on to the main event, which was the Mega Powers versus the Mega Backs. This was the selling point of this entire show, and it was a great build. I mean, this followed WrestleMania 4 after the Macho Man won the WWF Championship tournament. He was the WWF champion. He aligned himself with Hulk Hogan to form the Mega Powers. Ted DiBiase wanted revenge. Andre wanted revenge, and then this match came to be, and it was a really good match. And I like that they put Jesse Ventura as the referee, as that he was very popular at the time. And this is around the time where managers played a huge part in matches. Bobby the Brain Heenan was a great manager, and Ms. Elizabeth was one of the best babyface managers. It's very unfortunate that the family wants nothing to do with WWE. I don't blame them, but um, but yeah, Miss Elizabeth is very much deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully, years from now, we get to see at least a tribute. Hopefully, they don't do that stupid legacy where they only show a video package and there's that. But Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, this was slowly teasing to their eventual match down the road at WrestleMania 5, where Hulk Hogan's the one clearly getting the spotlight. Even hugging Ms. Elizabeth. There's a part where actually Ms. Elizabeth takes off her dress to distract everybody in order for the Mega Powers to win. But yeah, you could see at the end when Hulk Hogan and Miss Elizabeth are hugging, Randy Savage is like, "What the hell are you doing?" But it was a slow tease to their eventual match down the line, which that ends up becoming a classic, in my opinion. And this show, I wasn't too high on it. I think what saved it was a couple of moments. It was nice to see some of our favorite legends. All of these, almost everybody in this list becomes a Hall of Famer within the span of a couple years from now. Like, yeah, almost everybody in this list is a Hall of Famer. And rightfully so. But yeah, this show overall was just alright. I mean, there was a lot of good tag team matches. Actually, the three best matches of this entire show were tag team matches, and then that moment with Warrior becoming the IC champion was good. So that kind of saves it from being a total disaster. I'll give this show a C. I mean, just because it's the first SummerSlam doesn't have to be like a legendary show. It was fine. So a C is a good entry. Really, the only important part was the main event, but I mean, for the most part, I can't really hate on this show. But I'll be reviewing every SummerSlam moving forward. Hopefully, June and July don't like hurt me, but hopefully we can knock these out a little bit earlier. But I'm gonna try my best. But also, I gotta finish the Pixar review series and check out a couple other movies down the road. And let's hope SummerSlam is good this year. Anyways, take care, everybody.